I don't think we should ever accept that in golf. I think golf should be held to a higher standard than what was seen out there this week.
This shot landed incredibly softly. To commentators were saying, "Wow, how did that land so soft?"
That's exactly where he stepped on the other side of his ball to take a mysterious practice swing.
Obviously there's positives in it. You finish second, you get a bunch of points and money and all that stuff.
I mean, I think I'm better than every player. How could you not think that? And if I don't think that, then what am I doing out here?
There is a silent war being waged behind the closed doors of professional golf, one that goes far deeper than corporate mergers, Saudi millions, or shifting tournament schedules. For over a century, golf has survived on a singular, unshakable foundation, the absolute honor of the individual player. It is a sport where athletes call penalties on themselves, where the rulebook is treated like sacred text, and where your reputation is your only true currency. But over the last few weeks, that foundation has cracked. The locker rooms are no longer places of quiet concentration. They have transformed into ideological battlegrounds. At the absolute center of this implosion is a bitter, deep-seated standoff between two of the game's most prominent figures, Rory McIlroy and Wyndham Clark. The public has been treated to a carefully curated stream of press releases detailing schedule conflicts, minor injuries, and routine player rotations, but the truth leaking from the tour's inner circles tells a vastly different story. Rory McIlroy has drawn a definitive, unyielding line in the sand. He isn't just skipping events, he is staging a calculated high-stakes boycott behind the scenes. Reports are surfacing that McIlroy has flatly refused to share a pairing, a practice round, or even a tournament fairway with Wyndham Clark. To understand why a global ambassador of the sport would take such a drastic, unprecedented stance, we have to look past the official leaderboards and dive straight into the explosive controversy that has left the governing bodies in complete chaos. The catalyst for this elite fracture began with a series of highly controversial incidents that captured the attention of the entire golfing world during the high-stakes pressure of a major championship. Viral video footage began circulating across social media platforms, capturing what eagle-eyed fans and fellow competitors alleged were blatant rules violations by Wyndham Clark. The footage appeared to show unnatural ball movement in deep rough and questionable club placement behind the ball prior to crucial recovery shots. In a sport where a fraction of an inch can determine a multi-million-dollar championship, these images spread like wildfire.
This shot landed incredibly softly. To commentators were saying, "Wow, how did that land so soft?"
These steps are...
A ton of spin. Yeah, it is.
What started as quiet whispers among caddies quickly escalated into a full-blown crisis, as players demanded transparency and accountability.
He do that right there. He stepped directly behind his golf ball and patted that grass down where he could get to the back of that golf ball.
Drops, and it kept rolling, and eventually...
I tell you what, Wyndham Clark goes on a watch list here all of a sudden, and that's the last thing you want.
That's exactly where he stepped on the other side of his ball to take a mysterious practice swing.
For McIlroy, a man who has spent the better part of a decade acting as the moral compass and public defender of traditional professional golf, these allegations were a breaking point. Rory has always believed that without competitive integrity, the sport loses its meaning entirely. When video evidence of the alleged infractions began dominating locker room discussions, McIlroy reportedly expected an immediate decisive investigation from the tournament officials and the governing bodies.
Obviously there's positives in it. You finish second, you get a bunch of points and money and all that stuff. I mean, I've always wanted and dreamt about making a putt that really mattered to either force a playoff or win a tournament.
Instead, what followed was a wall of institutional silence. The governing authorities seemingly chose to protect the commercial viability of their marquee events rather than address the uncomfortable truth head-on. This perceived cover-up is precisely where Rory's frustration transformed into an outright revolt. As the authorities remained quiet, the tension reached a boiling point behind closed doors. Players were furious that a double standard seemed to be developing, where top-tier stars were given a pass to protect the tournament's brand, while lesser-known players faced the full weight of the rulebook. This perceived favoritism gave rise to what insiders are now calling the two-track system, a highly controversial framework, where elite players are subjected to an entirely different set of expectations and leniencies compared to the rest of the field. rumors began circulating that the entire system was being quietly manipulated to ensure maximum ratings and corporate satisfaction, regardless of what actually happened out on the grass. When McIlroy finally broke his silence regarding the matter, his words carried the weight of a player who felt profoundly betrayed by the leadership of his own tour. He didn't just question a single ruling. He challenged the systemic corruption that allowed the controversy to be swept under the rug.
I don't think we should ever accept that in golf. I think golf should be held to a higher standard than what was seen out there this week. Golf teaches you very good life lessons. It teaches you etiquette. It teaches you how to play by the rules.
In private player meetings, Rory allegedly issued a shocking warning to the commissioner and tour executives, stating that the implementation of this compromise system would completely ruin the credibility of the sport. To prove he wasn't bluffing, McIlroy did the unthinkable. He walked away from major commitments, taking an indefinite psychological break from the tour and establishing his firm boundary regarding Wyndham Clark. The financial fallout from this star-studded standoff was instantaneous and severe. Professional golf operates on the backing of massive corporate entities who pay premium dollars to have their brands associated with the prestige, class, and integrity of the game. When a figure as influential as Rory McIlroy publicly steps back and signals that something is deeply wrong with the competitive fairness of the tour, the corporate world takes notice. Reports indicate that several major tournament sponsors have already threatened to pull their funding entirely, unwilling to let their corporate logos be dragged into a cheating scandal or a player-led boycott. The crisis deepened when broadcast television networks caught wind of the escalating locker room civil war. Industry insiders report that network executives, including high-level representation from NBC, have placed immense pressure on golf's governing bodies to resolve the issue immediately. With a multi-million-dollar broadcast deal on the line, the networks are terrified of a watered-down product stripped of its biggest stars. Rumors have even surfaced that TV executives have threatened to invoke specific penalty clauses in their contracts, demanding that the authorities take definitive action, up to and including stripping titles or enforcing mandatory suspensions, before the damage to the sport's global viewership becomes completely irreversible. Meanwhile, the pressure on Wyndham Clark has mounted to an unbearable degree. Once celebrated for his meteoric rise to the top of the golfing world, the reigning champion has found himself increasingly isolated. Sources close to Clark indicate that the backlash has taken a severe emotional toll, forcing him to briefly retreat from the public eye to escape the relentless scrutiny. The situation worsened significantly when his own corporate partners began showing signs of panic. In today's hypersensitive marketing landscape, no brand wants to be tied to a sports figure facing widespread allegations of compromised ethics.
Wyndham, I've got to say, you've caused quite a stir with your comments from the other week about Rory McIlroy.
By no means has my career been as good as Rory McIlroy. I mean, he's one of the best players, and I said that in that interview.
With rumors swirling that major apparel and equipment giants like Adidas are actively reviewing their endorsement contracts, Clark's off-course empire is in serious jeopardy. But this isn't just a story about two individual golfers. It is a symptom of a much larger systemic rot that has taken hold of professional golf over the last few years. The ongoing civil war between the established tour and rival leagues has already fractured fan loyalty and stretched the sport's traditions to their absolute limits. The introduction of massive guaranteed payouts and hyper-exclusive signature events has created an environment where the stakes are simply too high. When hundreds of millions of dollars are on the line every single week, the temptation to bend the rules increases exponentially, while the tour's willingness to discipline its cash cow superstars decreases just as fast. This environment is precisely why Rory McIlroy's line in the sand is so critical for the future of the game.
Confirmed that the Saudi Arabian government are pulling funds. That means the future of the competition is in the balance.
They're just not able to sustain the significant losses that the league requires to continue in its current form. And it's very uncertain at the moment. They've actually come out and said that what they're doing is looking for private investment now.
By refusing to step onto the course with Clark, Rory is intentionally forcing the hand of the tour's executive leadership. He is using his massive global leverage to declare that some things are more important than television ratings, corporate hospitality tents, or FedEx Cup points. If the game loses its honesty, it loses everything that makes it great. Rory's absence from these marquee pairings sends a loud, unmistakable message to every junior golfer, every fan, and every executive. Competitive integrity cannot be bought, sold, or compromised for the sake of entertainment. As the tour moves forward into a highly uncertain summer schedule, the alliances within the locker room are fracturing further. Several prominent stars have quietly voiced their support for McIlroy's stance, hinting at a wider, coordinated player revolt if the governing bodies continue to ignore their demands for absolute transparency. On the other side of the divide, a group of players feels that the public drama is doing irreparable harm to the sports economy, arguing that internal disputes should remain strictly confidential to protect the financial well-being of all members. This internal schism has left the tour in a state of absolute paralysis, unable to please its moral vanguard or its corporate masters. Every tournament week now carries an undercurrent of intense anxiety. Fans tuning in are no longer just looking at the leaderboard to see who is making birdies. They are looking to see who is missing from the field, who is refusing to speak to whom in the media center, and whether the tour's leadership will finally find the courage to address the elephant in the room. The dramatic standoff between Rory McIlroy and Wyndham Clark has transcended a simple personal feud. It has become a defining trial for the soul of modern golf, a clear demonstration that the sport's traditional values are in a desperate, existential fight against the forces of corporate greed and institutional compromise. Whether the tour can bridge this massive chasm remains to be seen to heal the rift. The governing authorities will have to implement rigorous independent oversight and prove to the players that the rules apply equally to everyone, regardless of their star status or commercial value. Until that day comes, Rory McIlroy's line in the sand will remain firmly in place. He will continue to protect the integrity of the game he loves, even if it means watching from the sidelines, while the system he helped build threatens to tear itself apart from the inside out. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.